Hello everyone, Russ of Aquarimax here. We already had 8 in the house before I even got here. Nice. Toxic Clock, Scott H, Theo, Milstein, Nosio6, Andrew Eswald. Greetings everyone. I'm going to move this camera just a little bit. Time to feed the froggies. Haven't done that on a live stream for a little while, and he's hungry. He's ready to go. I might as well give him a snack, right? I'm going to sprinkle some down here, right on top of the rhizomes of the rabbit's foot fern. That's my male right there in the camera, and then the female's in the background, one of the females. Let's see, I'm just gonna dump them all right in there. I accidentally put in way too much calcium this time, but I didn't bother to fix that, so sorry about that. But there we go. Let's see if we can get a little bit closer in, shall we? I love that liverwort right there in the front. Okay, here comes the other female. They're all coming down for a snack. Here we go. Nice. So let's see. Down a wormhole, Slav Pepe, Nature and Pets, all in the house. Nice to see you all here. Got some great things going on. Someone left a comment, and I didn't have a chance to see who it was, on the video, asking if we could see some isopods and millipedes, so I grabbed a few of each, a couple bins of each. We'll be looking at those too after we feed the frogs. So I just figured we'd start with this since it was time to feed the frogs anyway, and then we're hungry, and it's always fun to watch them eat. Kendall Wyckoff, howdy, welcome everyone. Itty Bitty Ladybug, also in the house. Nice to see you here as well. So, a couple of things that are going on. Oh, there's the third froggy. She's kind of hiding in the shadows just to the right of the male. I don't know if you can see her. I can just barely make her out from behind that Selaginella and the toadstool there. Maybe she'll pop in. Evan Volkow, greetings. Elaine Smith, hi. All right. So, one thing that I'd like to ask you all to do, this is kind of important, is YouTube. You may have heard of COPPA, C-O-P-P-A, and what's going on. And it's important to protect children, and that's why COPPA exists, and that is a good reason, obviously. But people are thinking of expanding the laws in a way that could hurt YouTubers. So look it up, educate yourself a little bit on that. That would be my request. And then it is possible to leave a comment for the Federal Trade Commission and ask them to make sure that videos that are possibly not just, what they're thinking of is doing they're going to control videos that are directed at children. My videos are not directed at children, but could be attractive to children, and therefore, if they change the law so that attractive videos are under their jurisdiction, then it could really hurt a lot of YouTube. So if they need to protect children by having children-directed videos regulated, great. That's awesome. But as far as children attractive videos, that's not what we want. So if you wouldn't mind looking that up a little bit, that would be cool. All right. Isoviva, greetings, and hey, it's me. Nice to hear from you. I'm the one who suggested showing the isopods and millipedes, so I'll be sure to stay tuned. Thanks. Excellent. I will do that. Make sure I do that for you. Slav Pepe, can we see your Hoffmannsegei breeding project in a bit? I'd like to know how it's going. Actually, it's going really well. I want to, I will have to go grab those, but I can do that. And Don Gallagher's in the house. Jordan Savala, nice. And oh yes, Damien, I would totally be into that. Let's do it. Let's do it. I think we should. We did a sort of a collaboration when you brought the food over and I filmed the stuff, but you weren't actually there. So let's do a full-fledged collab. That would be awesome. I remember we talked about that in a live stream at one point, but we need to get on it. So let's, you have my number. Let's text each other about it. And Carter's Critters, I do have some scorpions. I'm going to be right back while these frogs are eating. I'm just going to grab my Hoffmannsegei, okay? Be back in a flash. All right, sorry, I lost a couple people because I disappeared for a second, but that is cool. I know how that is. So yes, I do have some scorpions, Carter's critters. I have Asian forest scorpioning and a Coahuila devil scorpion. Those are the only two I have. Scott H got IsoViva set up today, so I'm ready for some cows. Awesome. Hey, Toxicity 26, you are Dan Vivas. That's awesome. Nice to see you here in a live stream. Very cool. Dan is the one from whom I got my dairy cows. And I've got a package coming from him in not too long. Not dairy cows, I said dairy cows. Sorry, totally meant rubber duckies. I got my dairy cows from someone else. His name is Ian Tomish, but he's not really breeding anymore. That's where I got my dairy cows. But I got my rubber duckies from him, and on his advice, I changed the way I kept them since my last live stream. So hopefully they're going to be doing better and breeding. And Mantis IRL, tailless whip scorpions. If I have a chance to, yeah. I need to do, I'm actually thinking of doing a best pet invert video with those guys. And I'm really glad, IsoViva, that so many orders are pouring in. I know that you got off to a good start before we even got that video going, but that video sent him some traffic. So thanks to all of you who ended up getting an enclosure from IsoViva. That's awesome. So, and David Rodriguez, I agree. I think control of what the kids are watching needs to start with parents. I'm totally there with you. I gained 2 viewers? Oh, that's even better. Oh, Lacarte's getting some Sevilla. Those are some cool isopods. They're a lot like Hoffman's egg eye. So Jordan Savala, your giant orange does not eat the bug birder. Wow, really? And how are you making it? Are you doing it in the microwave? Are you using boiling water to mix it? Or are you just doing it as a powder? Because I would try to use one of the other methods and see what happens. And Cloud 9.5, hello, welcome. And thank you, Scott. The like button is very helpful. We could do a like spike. You all want to do a like spike? Is there any lag? I guess it's hard to say if there's any lag. But let's do a like spike. Oh, we're getting one right now. Look at that. It's awesome. Thank you, everybody. Got 16 likes. We had, what, 9 before, 6 before, something like that? And now we have more. Okay, you're doing the boiled water method, and that's what I do too. And I'm really curious about why it's not working for you. If they're not eating it, you don't have to give it to them. But I would try doing just powder, because mine will eat that. Mine will eat anything. How many giant oranges do you have? Because sometimes it has to do with the size. Oh, we got a pretty good like spike there, everybody. Thank you. That's awesome. That'll get more people seeing this. And David Rodriguez, any interest in growing dubia roaches or hissing roaches? I wish I could sometimes, but my wife has made a couple of requests that are pretty reasonable, considering how many creatures she lets me keep. And one of them is that I can't keep any roaches. So I'm okay with that. If I ever get my own facility though, off-site, I'm going to do it. I'm going to grow some roaches, but not here. Okay, so I'm going to pull out some of the bins and we'll do this for the isopods and everything. Okay, so bear with me as I move things around just a touch here. I'm going to lower the camera down and all that, so it'll take a second. And then I'll try to catch up with the chat after. But here goes the camera down. Sorry, you're just looking at cupboard for a minute here. I just have to move the lights and all that. There we go. All right, so here is a bin. Let's find out what's in the bin. And catching up. So Haley Watchtoll, nice that you made it. And Lee Est, welcome. Okay, so Cloud 9.5, I guess other people are here in the audio, so I'm not sure what's going on. Camden Cochran, what isopods do I use for my adult beardy? I would consider powder blues or another closely related species. Let's see what's in here. This is my cherryfoot millipedes. Let's just see if there's some on the surface. Oh, there's one right there. I've got 5 of these. These were sent to me by someone who watches and was purchasing some millipedes from me, some different species, said, I can catch these locally, you want some? So I was really happy to get some. Her name starts with an S, and now I'm having trouble remembering. There's a lot of people I interact with. There are 5 in here. She was nice enough to send me 5 of them so we could get them breeding, hopefully. And I think I have a couple males and a couple females in here, so. RJ Robinson, welcome. And thank you, Sharon. I think the frogs are pretty cute, too. Yep. And Lorvie, good. I'm really glad that the Isopod and Daphnia videos are being helpful. I really appreciate that. Good isopod to start with, David Rodriguez. It depends on what you're doing. If you're doing them as like a cleanup crew, or you're doing them as pets. If you're going to do pets, I say definitely do Porcella laevis dairy cow. It's hard to beat that. Or zebra pillbugs. Those are my 2 go-tos for that. If you're looking for a cleanup crew, I would say, depending on how much humidity you have, if you have a high humidity setup, it's fairly warm, I'd go with dwarf whites probably. And if you want to, if it's a lower humidity setup and more ventilation, probably do powder blues or any of the other powders, the powder whiteouts or the powder oranges, because they're the same species. Let's see. All right. So, well, I don't usually feed my isopods to my frogs, although they do, I'm sure, eat some of the ones that are in there as a cleanup crew. This one I just refreshed with new substrate. Let's see if there's any isopods kicking around. Oh, there's a little mold growth in that area. They're probably burying themselves. This one's full of babies. I don't want to dig too much because I don't want to cause any damage. I'm just wondering if there are any adults near the surface, just under the leaves, you know. But this one is full of Hiltonius pulchris. I have a little colony of adults and a ton of babies. There's a baby right there. There must be, I don't even know how many babies are in here. This is a Californian species. A biologist, I think it was Sheena who sent me the cherry foots. And this one was Sheila, I want to say, who sent me these Hiltonius pulchris. She sent me some adults and they started breeding. So, sorry that there aren't any adults near the surface there. There are lots and lots of babies though. Can you see all those? I mean, there's loads of them in there, but I don't want to disturb them too much. So that's a good way to cause problems with molting millipedes and whatnot. You can see some springtails in there. But the other day when I needed to refresh the substrate because they'd eaten so much of it, but there were just so many babies and in here, it was kind of fun. But the Hiltonius pulchris are kind of a species that's not that much in the hobby, so it was cool to get in there. You can see my containers are not up to date that way. Let's see. So I'm coming back into the chat. Want to make sure I catch up before we open this next one. Let's see. If I could be reincarnated as an animal in my collection, which species would you want to come back as? Good question. Maybe a budgie, because budgies are fairly long-lived. They're pretty intelligent. They get to interact with humans. They get to be out of their enclosures a lot, something like that. Maybe that, but otherwise maybe a snake, because they seem to have such relaxing lives, and I feel like I need to relax a little more. It's too busy. So Damien, Cubaris cliff ducky. I follow several people on Instagram who are always looking at the duckies, so different kinds of duckies and different kinds of Cubaris. So I may have seen them, but I'm not sure. I'm trying to remember if I have. Let's see. I'm going to pull this open. This is my culture of Porcella laevis orange. And I was talking to somebody in the chat a while ago. These guys are not quite as big, nor is they quite as active as the Porcella laevis dairy cow. They're still pretty cool. I love their glossy orange look. They don't seem to be quite as prolific either, although they do breed pretty well for me, but not like the dairy cows. So they're kind of fun. I like them. Let's see. Hello, Crystal. Do you have any arid bioactive setups? I do. I have a leopard gecko setup with powder blues in it, powder blue isopods, and they work great. How long does it take a vivarium to establish? I just started my first one. The plants are all dying back and molding. I know it's normal, but it's very scary. Yes, that is not uncommon, especially with if you're processing the plants correctly. That's kind of a good sign that a lot of your plants are dying back and it's getting moldy. It's part of the normal thing. It is scary, but you should notice a difference within, say, a couple of weeks. If you're not noticing a lot of new growth coming back, then there is a problem. In my experience anyway. But like when I did this dart frog vivarium, here, which now you can't see properly. Let's see, I'm going to pull this out of the thing so we can take a peek. When I planted this, the only thing that didn't die back, well, I can't say the only thing, but one of the few things that didn't die back were the bromeliads. Almost everything else I put in there died back. So, yes, I wouldn't worry too much about it. At this point, I give yourself a few weeks, maybe a month, just to make sure. Let's see, how do you tell a male from a female millipede? Depends on the species. Ivory millipedes are super easy. I do have a video on that. Basically, the males have a saddle behind their head, which is a set of segments that are enlarged. We're going to take a look at my powder oranges for a minute, because they're pretty cool. They're doing well. Got a ton of those, and I really like powder oranges. They're fun, really easy. So I would say they have these enlarged plates, the ivory millipedes, and they're great, super easy to take care of and so on. If you haven't seen my recent video on ivory millipedes, I would recommend checking that out. But yeah, other species can be a little bit more difficult to tell. You can tell with the terminal segments, and the males are often thinner and pointier, and the females are blunter. The only surefire way to tell is that the males most of the time have some structures around the 7th or 8th pair of legs from the front, right around there, called the gonopodia. 1 gonopodium, 2 gonopodia. And those are reproductive structures. They molt the legs off, and in the molt they're replaced with gonopodia, which are their mating structures. And so you can see those from underneath. In occasion you can see when they're mating, and then you can also see the gap between the rest of the legs sometimes. Let's see. And Camden Cochran, are you going to the Reptile Expo in Grapevine, Texas this Saturday? I'm afraid I'm not, but I'm in the future I will probably be going to more expos than I do now, which is usually just my local one, but it's starting to get to the point where I could probably go to a couple more. Crystal's Pets and Plants getting zebra isopods this week. Awesome! One of my favorites. Congratulations, Crystal. That's great. And thank you, Lee. I appreciate you watching them. Jordan, do you think the water might be the water I'm using for the bug burger? I'm using alkaline. Well, I use pretty alkaline water from my tap. I use filtered water, so it's carbon filtered before I add it, but that's what I use. Pretty alkaline, and they don't mind. That's a puzzle for me. Try it dry first and see what you get. See what happens. And the rubber duckies so far seem to be doing okay now that I moved them into a different enclosure, but it'll be a while before we get, a whole lot going on in there, because the breeding takes a while and stuff. Yeah, the only thing about these guys is that they run fast. They take off. And thank you, MN. Hello to all my pets. Well, they all say hello back. And Austin Payne's Hoffman's Egg babies are doing great. Oh, hopefully just the Bolivari just is hiding. Is not dead. I hope so. You got some Porcelia spatulatus? Sent 13 instead of 10. Awesome. Cool. You'll be posting a video on your isopods, your carnivorous plants. That's cool. I love carnivorous plants. I've kept a couple. And Lacarte's going to try to turn the Sevillas into self-replenishing food for giant leopard geckos. Wow. They must be pretty fast breeders then. I know, for me, the Porcelia species that I've kept that breeds the fastest, besides Laevis, the giant Spanish Porcelios, I should say. Let's look at the Hoffman's egg eye. Is ornatus, Porcelia ornatus yellow dot. But maybe the Sevillas must breed somewhere near that speed if you're thinking about using them for food. Because none of my other Porcelios, giant Spanish Porcelios, breed that fast. Yeah, giant African black millipedes are awesome. It's hard to get them these days. They're expensive, but they're great. All right. Okay, Andrew Awald, with isopods and arid setups, you see them mostly under. Oh, there's a Hoffman's egg right there. See them in the water dish, under the water dish, nowhere else in the soil. With powder blues, I notice them more often out, but who knows? But I think they tend to do that. So Kendall Wyckoff has a few orthoporous texicolins that I no longer have room for. Somebody be able to adopt them. I actually have a setup with those in them, and I think most of them are hiding under this piece of wood right here. So this is like their favorite piece of wood lately. Whoa, there we go. We got Hoffman's egg eye everywhere. Check it out. There they are. And some Spanish orange. I'm always pulling Spanish orange out of there. It's kind of annoying. I've been pulling them out for a long time, trying to get rid of them, putting them on other enclosures, but yeah, it's kind of frustrating. But these guys are gorgeous. Check them out. I love their color. It's almost blue. I probably could, Kendall, because I've already got an enclosure, and I think I've only got one in there. So yeah, I could do it. Have you kept Expansus isopods? They're going to be in my Christmas list. That is one I want. My daughter said she saw a picture of one on Instagram the other day, and she thought they were super cool. They were one of the Spanish isopods that I saw first years ago, before there were any over here in the United States, and said, wow, those are awesome. And kind of ignited my interest in the giant Spanish Porcellio. So there you go. Let's see. And the carnivorous plants I've kept in the past are just Venus flytraps and Drosera capensis, a sundew. I would be interested in doing both of those again and doing others. Andrew Ewald, actually, can dubia roaches eat bug burger in dry form? I'm sure they can. And Carter's Critters, what are you going to redo your isopods bins with? I've been moving mine to larger bins, and I like it. It seems to work better. Hello, Mr. Snake. And LeCarte, even if they can't be the main food source, they can at least be an emergency backup source. Oh, certainly, yeah. But I think there are some isopods. Sorry about the cough. Where are my cough drops? They're over there. I need to grab one in a second here. Let's see. I love it when these guys are just running everywhere. They're so cool. There's a nice big female right there. I think using isopods, if you're breeding them for a food, something like Porcellio ornatus yellow dot or Porcellio laevis, or maybe these, the Sevillas. I don't know how fast they breed, but you know, anything like that, I think that is a pretty sustainable idea for the really fast breeding ones. And thank you, Elaine. I hope to keep making lots of them. I hope this COPPA thing doesn't destroy YouTube. I know that that sounds like a gloom and doom sort of thing, but it's pretty scary for those of us who are, you know, trying to make a little money and keep things sustainable using YouTube. It's a scary thing. So, do you need to hibernate tailless whip scorpions? Not the species that I have. They are active all year, although they do slow down a little bit in the winter. And Cloud 9.5, the bug fair has been announced. May 16th, 9:30 a.m. and May 17th, 9:30 a.m. The Natural History Museum. Awesome. And where is that? In which state is that in? So Papa, I don't know how to say your name, Mr. P. King. Would you be for or against using isopods in large beetle vivs? I guess it depends on the beetle situation. I've heard people doing it. I'm not really sure. I guess it just depends on the situation, which beetle species and in which life stage, because I would not put some of the, like the Porcellio isopods with a beetle that is about to molt from larva to adult, because I think in the vulnerable, just molted stage, either from larva to pupa or from pupa to beetle, they might become food. The beetles might. So Jordan, do you ever come across mites in your tubs? What do you do in that situation? I used to have bigger problems with mites when I was just getting started. I think having lots of springtails in most of my cultures really helps with that. I do occasionally see a few mites in newer cultures with fewer isopods in them, but as the cultures build up and do better, I think they just kind of either die out completely or get reduced to such smaller numbers that it's not a big deal. And thank you, Crystal. Yeah, it was kind of an isopod explosion. There's a ton of them now hiding, I'm sure, under the substrate and whatnot. They just hang out down there as soon as I move them. Well, that looked like a... Was that what I thought it was? I just thought I saw an Armadillidium clue guy running around in there. And maybe I'm mistaking some... Nope! That is an Armadillidium clue guy. How did that happen? Let's see. Look at that. We've got an Armadillidium clue guy. A stowaway. I do set that bin on top of this bin. No, I don't. What's going on? That's so weird. Armadillidium clue guy is an awesome species, but I don't really want it in here. What's going on? That's so weird. Amore, mi fai un favore? Mi prendi un contenitore perché questo tipo è scappato.
Okay.
Grazie. Okay. Let's see. All right. So I'm looking, trying to catch up with stuff here. Why would isopods glow a greenish color? Caught them in my yard. So is it like a fluorescent sort of glow, or is it a glow in a dark sort of glow? I'm curious. Grazie. Apprezzo. There we go. Thank you. So, my wife, Kelly, was kind enough to get me a deli cup, so I can put that little guy in there. The little Armadillidium clue guy. So, I can put him away after I'm done with the live stream. I don't know what's going on there. All right. Yeah, let's take a look at the enclosure, Austin. All right, so what I do, let me kind of put it back the way it usually is. Looks like this. So there's huge slabs of cork bark in there. This is the container. There's small amounts of ventilation on the sides, you can see there, but there's a lot of ventilation at the top, like almost half of the lid is cut out and replaced with screen. So they get plenty of ventilation. And then there are probably 2.5 inches of substrate in there and the huge slabs of cork bark, and I always dampen a corner. I think this is my damp corner right here. And they like to hang out right there under this piece of bark that's close to that. So, yeah. Let's see. Did that help, Austin? Hope so. Is it a bad idea to keep some plants with a Daphnia culture? It looks a bit barren and lonely on its own. I have never had success keeping plants with Daphnia, and I think most people don't. I know some people have done it, but I don't like to do it because I feel like you are compromising the best life situation for either the plants or the Daphnia, or maybe both. So I don't do it, especially when you keep scuds with it, because if you keep scuds in your Daphnia culture, then they're going to eat the plants anyway. And yes, Austin, I agree. You put lots and lots of springtails in there. If you get them breeding well, they're going to help with the mites a lot. Oh, Konnak Yang is back in the house. Nice. The isopods are keeping each other as pets. So, let's see. The ventilation on my giant orange setup is actually really minimal. I would grab it, but we're kind of running out of time to go grab something, because then I'd end up using like 1.5 minutes to do that. But the ventilation looks almost exactly the same as it does on some of these other containers, so let me show you. I just have minimal stuff on my giant orange Porcellio scabber. I don't know if you can see that very well. It's just a couple of holes poked in each side and then covered in screen and chiffon to keep bugs out, like that. Very, very minimal. They don't really seem to mind that, the Porcellio scabber. I'm sure they could do better. They do fine with more, but they do great with it. So there you go. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to try to catch up a little bit. So, some eggs. Are you fluent in Italian? Yes. I lived there for a couple years and then lived with Italians a couple years here, and my undergraduate major was Italian. So yeah, I am. And I speak with my wife, and we've spoken Italian with each other for over 20 years. Isoviva, been finding stowaways in some of our bins too. Yeah, it's usually, when I find them, they're usually powder blues or, something like that. They're everywhere. But I don't know. I've never seen an Armadillidium clue guy as one. And Okay, let's see. So empty. Any tips on helping them breed? Sorry, I don't know what we're talking about breeding. So please remind me what we're talking about breeding, and I'll try to help you out there. So Mr. Snake, 41 eggs in her chameleon clutch and 37 in the second. Wow. What are you going to do with 68 remaining eggs? Good question. Well, I hope that works out for you. That's a lot of baby chameleons. So Elaine, it's like a neon yellow-green isopod. That is crazy. There are some species that show up like that occasionally, like T. rathke sometimes shows up that way, I think it is. So if you look up T. rathke and see if it looks like that, that might be the species you have, possibly. And it might be just a really interesting color variation. I'd love to see a color, a photo or a video of those. So Kiddo Epic says, recently bought dwarf whites from a vendor in an expo, and I've noticed mites from the culture. What's the best way to get rid of the mites? Well, you can try separating out as many of the isopods as you can into fresh substrate. But another way to do it is, that's probably a good way to do it. Just try that way. You might get some mites anyway, but then put a bunch of springtails in with them in the new substrate right away. And then hopefully you can get them going. That's kind of what happened to me when I first got mine. So, and then they ended up disappearing eventually, the mites, or at least going to such small numbers. Which isopod species reproduces the slowest? I want them in my hermit crab tank, but I don't want them taking over the enclosure. Slow isopod reproducers in a hermit crab tank. Well, I've heard that hermit crabs will eat some of them, but probably you want to go with an armadillidium species, I'm thinking. Because a lot of those are fairly slow reproducers compared to others. Don't put peaches in there. Nasatum, they breed really fast. Oh, that's one way to do it too. Thank you for joining in, Elaine. You're probably gone by now, but thank you. And Bruno. Hey, Bruno. Hello. Bem-vindo. Toxic clock. What isopod species would you recommend for golden geckos or just geckos in general? Well, if it's a gecko that might eat them, I tend to put in either dairy cows, which seem to work well with my cresties, or a dwarf species like Trichorhina tomentosa, because they're too small to be interesting to them. So those tend to work for a lot of species, one of those two. So, all right. And Crystal's Pets and Plants, you know some Italian too, awesome. Oh, isopods, and she's saying, but orange in particular. I would say if you create a great substrate for them and you supplement that just a couple times a week with protein and fresh veggies, they're going to breed for you like crazy. Make sure they have a damp spot on one side of the enclosure and a drier spot on the other side, plenty of cover, plenty of leaf litter, and they will go nuts. It might take a little while, but at first it's kind of slow, but they build up. So, and thank you, Jordan. I'm glad that we can help you out with that. That's awesome. And thank you, Carter's Critters. I should mention the website. People, I sometimes forget to tell people I have one. It's aquariumax.com, and there's tons of stuff there. So hopefully that helps. So empty, you probably got Porcellio scabri, yeah, like Cloud 9.5 is saying. I bet that's what it is. So that's a pretty good bet. All right. Well, I have got to go in just a minute, but look at that. 38 people in the house, 39 likes. That is pretty good. I'm happy with that. Let's do one more like spike before I take off and see if we can get any more likes in there. Yes, if we could at least get to 40 likes, that would be awesome. I would love that. And next time, let's do the rubber duckies, because I've got to go in just a minute. But I see everybody's kind of taking off. But we got past 40, so that's awesome. Thanks for joining in today. I'm going to go film some more videos. So catch it on Friday, okay?